Welcome to the podcast. Now that I'm engaged, how do I get married? I'm your host, Kevin Dennis.
And I'm August Joker, co-host and brand manager at Fantasy Sound Event Services.
In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 35 years ago.
Each week on this podcast, we'll explore a new corner of wedding planning so you can prepare for your I-dos without the stress.
From budgeting to booking vendors to the day of drama.
Let's talk smart wedding planning.
All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? And we have the one and only Brittany Branson with us, and she's very famous in the wedding world. She's a live painter, and there's not many of them out there. So we are very lucky to have her on the show today. So Brittany, tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got you here today.
Oh man. Okay. So, hey everyone, I'm Brittany. I live in the greater Washington, D.C. area, but I am a destination live wedding painter. I especially work a ton from like the Richmond, Virginia up to Long Island corridor or completely out of state, which is super fun. I'll probably get to talk about this a little later, but I am on a mission to live paint at least one wedding in every state.
I was going to make sure you brought that up, so I'm glad you said. I was like,
what?
Yeah.
How cool is that? Do you have like a little map right now where you're like checking them off or coloring it in?
Yeah, I just got some new like branding photos done and some new web copy. So once all of that goes out, I do have a cute little map to, instead of just relying on whenever I can verbally bring it up, it'll be, visual and on the site. So actively working on that. Oh my gosh, what else? I've been live painting weddings for 10 years now. So I'm not quite the OG. There's a handful of amazing people in my life whom I now know have been doing this for longer. But, I'm like baby OG, which has been so fun. And I'm married to my best friend, Tim. He is a pilot. We have two amazing rescue dogs. And rescue dogs are super important to me in my business. I use my business to give back to them. And how we got here, I'm quite sure it's the goddess herself, Megan Ely of OFD Consulting. And then I got to finally physically meet Kevin at a few conferences after for a few years hearing all about him. And then I finally got to physically meet him.
all the bad stuff, I'm sure. So, and we got
it
to
was
sit
not
on a
bad.
panel
It was
together.
just funny.
Yeah.
Yes, we got to do the panel. That was awesome.
Yeah, we got to over in where were we? Fort Lauderdale?
Lauderdale,
yeah. I'm like, where were we? We were somewhere where the convention center was under construction and it was a pain in the butt to get in and out of. So that was
find an Uber.
Yeah. Uber was like impossible to get. And I foolishly waited to book my hotel for that trip. And I was at a hotel closer to the airport. So I had definitely an Uber trip ahead of me every time I wanted to do anything.
Gosh.
So anyway,
we're not.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say really quick, because I don't know if we've ever talked about Miss Megan Ely on this podcast, but for our listeners, I mean, we like to call her Kevin's publicist, but also Kevin's sister. So they have a very fun relationship. So
yeah, we will go and we will have not seen each other for months, and we instantly go into picking on each other mode and brother and sister. Yeah, it's like, it's inevitable.
It's a fun dynamic, yeah.
It is
what it is. Especially to watch it as like the third person stepping back and just be like,
yeah.
And you would think we were together and do that all the time, but we aren't. But anyway, that's a whole nother podcast for another day. But all right, so we're not here to talk about our wonderful trip to Fort Lauderdale or our friend Megan Ely there. We're here to talk about the benefits of hiring a live wedding painter and finding ways to incorporate art into your wedding guest experience and unique favors. So there was nobody better to talk about this than you. So I think being from California, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm starting to see live painting come around, but it's like maybe 3-4 times a year of all the weddings that we do. So it's not a very common thing. And I think every time we do it, it's such an amazing guest experience, which I don't think people realize when they do this. One, you're going to get a keepsake at the end, but two, the guest experience for it. So Brittany, before we go any further, I think we should talk about, for the couples who may not be familiar, what exactly is a live painter and how does it work on the day of the wedding?
Yeah. First, what I always love to say is basically to go off of what you were just saying, I feel like in the the Western wedding world, live wedding painting is relatively new. And I'm putting new in air quotes. I had an amazing live artist when Tim and I got married 10 years ago. So I'm very lucky. I get to have a painting. But actually what people don't realize is that it's actually probably one of the oldest vendors. I mean, if you think about the marriage of Queen Victoria and royalty,
Mm.
the only reason we all know what these weddings looked like was because of plein air artists. You know what I mean? So I feel
That's
like
fair.
it's just, yeah. So I just feel like it's new in the modern sense, but we're actually a very, very old service. But for those who may not be familiar, as a live wedding artist, I literally physically attend your wedding, and over 5 to 7 hours, I craft a heirloom canvas painting of a moment of your choosing. So, especially right now, most of my couples are opting for first kisses or walking back up the aisle moments. First dances are super popular to capture, and then especially for couples who have very scenic physical venues, even just a lovely pose kind of outside their venue translates really well into a canvas. But just as Kevin was saying, it's this wonderful kind of two-parter service of, yes, you're going to get literally a physical tangible heirloom that cannot, it can't hide on your computer, it can't hide on a file drive, it has to be displayed proudly in your home or your space, and you're going to be able to have that forever. But it is a non-musical form of entertainment. I always tell my couples, even though I'm super busy and focused, in my periphery, there's always a handful of like super fans who every 20 minutes, they're coming by to check on the progress. And then, of course, I have my bingo sheet of the common questions and stuff that I get from guests
Oh
every
well,
wedding without fail.
we're gonna have to
Do
get in the bingo
tell,
scene.
do tell.
Well,
What are
yeah.
the questions?
Wait. Before we do that, I'm going to say from my experience, exactly what Brittany said. People get enthralled with
Yeah.
watching this come to watching the painting come to life, and like you said, it's about they're on a rotate. They
Yes.
constantly going back, and I see people even taking photos of it in going through the process. Like they
Oh,
were,
yeah.
yeah.
Like
It
even
becomes the superstar of the wedding. It really does.
I think so. And like guests are amazing. Even this past wedding I did on Friday, two guests in particular emailed me and then texted me photos of me at work that they captured, because and that means a lot that you were excited enough to like want to take
Yeah.
photo of me in progress, and you were like, they're like, "Oh, would you like to have these for your own purposes?" And that means a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, yeah, and you get your own content too, so you can
Yes.
use that on your own Instagram, so
Absolutely. I'm very appreciative. They're awesome.
All right, the bingo card. You got to spill.
yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. So it's do you know Bob Ross?
Yes.
Or that guy.
Oh, they asked you
Wait,
that?
Oh,
What?
without multiple people without fail. Do you know Bob Ross? Or they asked me like who was that guy with the fro with the happy trees?
Oh my God.
Bob Ross. And then especially if it's a heterosexual wedding or two grooms, the groomsmen without fail will come up and be like, "Oh, the groom isn't that handsome. You painted him too well.
Oh.
He doesn't have that much hair in real life. You really gave him a lot of hair. Like, good for you. He's too slim. You need to fatten him up.
Oh,
Stuff like that."
my God.
damn, they're coming at their boy like that?
Of
That's
course.
crazy.
I'm not shocked at any of that, to be honest
No.
with you.
Oh, they
Yeah.
add like, and then of course there's always the can you add me? Like, how much do I have to? Can I slip you a 20 to like in the
Are you
window?
serious?
Oh yeah, and then of course like later in the night there's always the token few who are like, "Can you paint me like one of your French girls, in Titanic,
Oh my
essentially
God.
nude?" And I'm like, "Oh
Yeah.
boy, here we go."
I love.
Wow.
They're cute.
How
They're
often-
cute.
And how often do we get bingo at a wedding? Is it pretty regular?
Oh, it's a game we've all created and we always win.
I love it.
Every wedding.
Well, yeah, very, very fun for the guest experience too. And like we have a couple, I mean, like Kevin said, we don't have a ton out here, but there are a couple of live painters near us. And, sometimes they'll post videos of, people walking by and looking at the art and asking questions like that. So it's very fun for them, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, what are like some of your reactions like you get from the couple though, not just from the guests? Like what kind of typical reactions do you get?
Oh man, I really do my best to film the reactions. So back in the
Oh,
day, I used to like I've actually gotten requests to bring this back because I feel like I was one of the first to really do it however many years ago, but I used to mount my iPhone, kind of like this part of the easel but facing
Yeah.
behind me. But now because I often need the phone for reference, but now I've got the Meta glasses. So I just usually just keep them running so that even if the couple sneaks up on me, the moment I turn around, I've got that footage. But oh man, I mean, I have some amazing reaction footage of couples literally collapsing to the floor. Like,
oh,
and it
no
just
way.
means the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like yeah, and especially the few that really stick out, it was often because either something went wrong during the wedding day, usually with the weather or some logistical thing impacted the day, but that's the fun of the painting, right? It doesn't have to impact the painting. So the number of times where the weather has just been atrocious and that was the original vision for the painting, let's say an outdoor ceremony, but the painting will always reflect your original vision if you'd like. And so when they see that, they get very emotional that like there it is in a living thing, their original vision, or adding people into the painting who've passed on. And when
Oh,
they get to see their portraits or likeness, they get very emotional. So yeah, I'm very blessed. I've got some wonderful reactions.
I love that. All right, so I'm big on guest experience, and we kind of touched on it earlier. So, how can doing live art at a wedding add to guest experience?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, kind of like what we were talking about is I hate the expression killing two birds with one stone. I really don't want to kill animals like this. But you really, injecting art into your big day really kills those two birds. You get something that you can physically keep without
Mhm.
sacrificing guest experience, providing them another form of entertainment. Even if you have the world's greatest DJ like Kevin, everyone needs a restroom break. Everyone needs to just take a breather. And the fact that that energy level that someone like Kevin is creating, you add me into the mix, you don't have this like slump. You know what I mean? They can just transition to watching something else that's cool and then get right back onto the dance floor. And then also considering the personalities or the ages of your guests. If you have an older crowd, they may appreciate something a little bit more tamer. Or even like live painting has been great for very intimate weddings and events where maybe it doesn't make sense to have a DJ, for 20 people in a restaurant, but
Mhm.
you can still provide a lovely entertainment and some sort of focal point. So that's how it's been working really well. But that's the painting. But for me as a live artist, especially in the last year and a half, I've had to now offer the live guest well, I call them fashion illustrations, which
Okay.
are for me 5 by 7 very quick illustrations of the guests themselves. And that acts as
Oh,
their favor that they can take home, and it's a favor you won't toss, you know what I mean?
yeah.
um so that, like, I would say 50% of my upcoming bookings are we're moving into that, which is
Mm.
super cool, super fun. So those are sort of like the big two, but I do have to give a shout out to there are some amazing art and unique artists out there. I know of a sand artist where she has a table full of, like sand from the beach, and she'll have a camera mounted over her shoulder. And as the ceremony's happening, as the toast, she will quickly, like with her finger, create drawings in the sand of that moment and what she's seeing and hearing. But then she'll wipe it
Wow.
away and move on to something new. But then the couple will have that video montage of everything to keep after.
Oh.
Oh, I've
So like,
never ever seen that.
Or
That's so
heard of that.
cool.
oh yeah, and it's like, again, if everyone's different in terms of their how what's the word I'm looking for? Some people get a little bit more philosophical than others, but especially for couples who kind of appreciate the fact that a wedding day is made up of so many fleeting moments. And
Mhm.
that's sand, right? Like sand on the beach. Sometimes it's there, the next day the tide washes it out. And if you want to get that emotional and
Wow,
philosophical, that's a
very deep.
beautiful art
Yeah.
form. That's
Yeah.
deep. It's deep. It's not for everyone, but it, like, for you will always find someone that values what you value, right? So I've seen that. And then I feel like I'm seeing live illustrators who maybe started in the corporate space where they're attending a keynote lecture, and they will live illustrate the like big points that the speaker is making.
Oh.
You can
Hmm.
translate that to a wedding, like, and they'll listen to the everything verbal, the vows, the speeches, and then live illustrate like the key important points. So that's really cool too.
That is cool, and it's funny that you mentioned the sand, because anytime we go to Hawaii as a family, and the kids will make this big sand castle, and that's their thing. They like to go back the next day to see if it's even there. That's their
Yeah,
favorite thing. They love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I was like, wow, what a way to get creative.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, and then kind of in the same breath, like I don't know if you've seen this, or it seems like you have a lot of other friends in the wedding world who do incorporate different kinds of art, but do you have any other like creative ways you've seen couples incorporate arts into their wedding?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can really start incorporating art from the get-go. And I mean, even just the stationery. I feel like
Stationery, yeah.
that's a very easy answer.
Hmm.
From the save the, like, even I like to tell my story, because when my husband and I got married, I wasn't quite painting or doing anything wedding related, but I loved wedding art. So I hired a stationery company out of Ireland who specialized in like hand painted scenes featured on the stationery. And so I worked with them to create a bifold kind of booklet invitation, where on the front they did a painting of um, Tim down on his knee proposing to me, because he proposed to me
Oh.
at the DC cherry blossoms. So that was really pretty. But then,
Oh.
Oh.
yeah, but then you would open it, and the entire booklet was literally where our ceremony was, on the Eastern
Mm.
Shore, including a likeness of Tim and I. It wasn't at all my dress. But what I liked about it, again, because I like the deep stuff, it it was literally the story of us. Like, here's the beginning, the proposal, and then when guests opened it, they were being invited to the very spot where we were gonna say I do.
That's
And
awesome.
I have the original paintings before they scanned them in and everything. So yeah, you can start incorporating art from the get-go. You can have a lot of fun using art for signage, of course. I feel like is a very um easy answer. You can have fun with guest books. You can make them super interactive. Or back in the day, I would do a lot of hand painted venue illustrations and then provide
Hmm.
a framing mat for guests to sign around it so they didn't touch the art.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can really do a lot for, and I've had a few opportunities in my career to be with my couples from the beginning to end, like from save the dates through invitations through day of uh signage to live painting. And that's awesome, because then we're telling a very cohesive story.
Well, and for branding purposes, it must be beautiful. Like it's like so much better than just your generic stuff that you see all the time. It's like it's so personal and so intimate and more about the
I
couple.
think s-
So
I think so.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
so.
All right. So what are some unique ways you've seen couples use their finished, wedding painting after their big day? Have they done anything fun and creative with it?
Um, I mean, I think I work with them to, if they want to do thank you notes, which I feel like is
Oh.
Hmm.
number one, because just the timeline of the day. A lot of guests do end up leaving before the
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 end.
whole the end. And so
They get their cake and they go.
exactly. And so if they didn't get to see the finished product, the thank you note is a wonderful way to get the image back in front of them.
I love
Um,
that.
and then I've definitely worked with a couple. I provided them the correct file. I think they ended up printing their painting on like a throw blanket, which I thought
Oh,
was really
wow.
cool. Yeah. So I feel like as so long as I give them a quality digital file, when you think of, well, what can you print on? I feel like my couples have done that. But I personally think the thank you notes or then providing a print of the completed painting to both sets of parents, if that's applicable,
Mm,
Mhm.
is like the top two.
mm, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess just to kind of get the entire picture, so to speak,
Yeah.
what
But
is the process? Yeah, no, for real. What does the process look like from beginning to end? So, like when the couple first comes to book you, they're expressing interest. Can you walk us through the process with your couples?
yeah, sure. So I always say every artist is different, but for me personally, what happens is they come to my website, they inquire. I really work with them to create the painting they want. It's something that lights me up as an artist, and it's something I thrive on, to not let the logistics of the wedding affect the painting. So what that can ultimately look like is a couple comes to me and they say, "Hey, we really love the idea of us being captured in like a first dance pose,
Mm.
but we really selected this venue for the ceremony spot. Is there a way in the painting we can merge the two?" I
Oh,
love, yeah, I love doing that. Or
that seems
now a
hard.
lot of, oh, I love it.
Okay.
I love it. And that's the thing. Like, I have a lot of artist friends who are very traditional plein air artists, in that whatever moment they're painting, they have to be there. They have to have a clean line of sight. Um, and that's okay. Like, so long as everyone is upfront about their own processes and how they work best, and if couples are cool with that, like that's awesome. I'm not for everyone, and that's totally okay. But I thrive on that creativity challenge of merging your favorite elements into the painting. So we will ex- either via email or discovery call brainstorm those ideas. We move to booking, no problem. So then about a week before, I send out a pre-painting questionnaire, which is how I just collect the basic, the not so sexy logistics of like, how am I going to park?
Yeah.
Like, what time does everything start? But then on the big day, I usually love to arrive about an hour and a half before the start of the ceremony, regardless of what moment they're having painted. And that's just because I found over 10 years is that if guests arrive to where I am and they see a completely blank canvas, they get confused very fast about like,
Oh.
why is this woman here? What's all this gear? But if at least like the background and stuff is starting to go in, they can connect the dots, and they get a bit more excited. So I like a few hours of time prior to when we're physically in the same space to get that going.
Mhm.
And then I'm there through until the end of the evening, because it's very important to me that this is a non-musical entertainment. Um, Up until now, I've been offering uh, different composition options, but moving forward, especially into next year, I'm just going to be booking what I call the just the two of us, which is just the couple and their pets if they'd like in a scene. That's just how I thrive, and it's absolutely a painting I can complete by the end of the night, which is super important to me. So that's what's going to happen moving forward. But for now, regardless of what kind of complexity of composition they booked, I want to ensure that the painting is like 95% done by the end of the night. So the
Yeah.
couple, scenery, pets. I don't, and again, every artist is different. I personally believe a solid life painter should get to that stage of finished by the end of the night. Um, Otherwise, I feel like the wedding is just treated as like a session,
Yeah.
Oh,
of a plein air artist, and
yeah.
sometimes plein air artists need multiple sessions. So that's just my own philosophy.
Well,
I
I
love it.
mean, I
Oh, go
feel
ahead.
like it's kind of I don't know, like if I were hiring a wedding painter, I feel like I would want to see it on the day of my wedding while we're there at the venue. Like when everything is at peak excitement, that just totally elevates the entire experience.
Yeah, I think like and I'm always honest with couples. Sometimes like I take the painting home most of the time, more so to just ensure that they don't have to worry about it, especially after a few hours of drinking and partying. But
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah, taking it home to my studio to especially work on maybe faces and stuff, like sometimes I need that. Like sometimes the environment is just not conducive to me like getting in there really
Yeah.
well and doing a face that is maybe the size of my pinky tip. But my couples have always been super cool and understanding about that.
Yeah. And I'm sure they want it to look the best at the end. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
all right. So you mentioned the form that you send out, but how do you ensure the painting reflects the couple's personality and style?
So that's a great question. So I do have a clause in my contract where whether you read it or not, you signed off on it. That states like by signing this contract, you have spent enough time examining my very extensive portfolio. You understand my style, therefore you sign off on this. Like you understand what you're gonna get. When I was earlier in my career, I started. I essentially offered revisions where I would send an image of the completed painting to the couple via email, but I found that that just invites all sorts of sometimes nitpicking. You know what I mean? Like um that can sometimes open up a can of uh just like getting into the cycle where sometimes no one ends up happy. If that
Yeah.
makes
Right.
any sense.
No,
No,
100%.
totally.
Yeah. And so now I have such an extensive portfolio, like the type of venue, the type of couple, the pose, the moment. If you're envisioning it, I have it, and I probably have multiple examples of it. And so if by then you're not in a place to really trust the potential outcome, maybe we're not a good fit. And again, totally okay. There's artists out there for everyone, but I I am now in a place where this is it. And that's sort of the beauty of it. Like this was created live with very minimal post touch-ups. Like this was it. And I think there's something really beautiful and special about that.
I agree. I think it's instead of you being in a studio painting something over months, this was created in a short amount of time, and and in that moment while the wedding was going on. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that makes it really special.
Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah, and I
I
think that's the appeal, like you're saying.
yeah, and I think this is also why I'm not a hyper realist, and I don't pretend to be a hyper realist. Your portraits in the painting are very impressionistic likenesses, but I've come to like that because you're hiring a photographer and or videographer to capture reality. I'm
Hmm.
I'm capturing feeling, I'm capturing essence. And so I just never again want to get into this space where I make you unhappy because I can only see what I see and replicate what I replicate. And if we just get in this cycle of like how I see you is so different than how you see you. I would never want to make you upset or self-conscious or angry. So yeah, I'm in this place where when I send the painting back, this is it.
I love it.
So, kind of on the same breath, but are there any other like misconceptions that couples may have about live wedding paintings that sometimes you might have to educate them on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the biggest one is I cannot replicate someone else's style, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
Mm,
And
yeah,
yeah.
maybe
totally.
Bob
this is
Ross, you can't do Bob Ross?
I can't, and especially like I wouldn't be able to do that in the calmness of my studio over months. I'm certainly not going to be able to do that in 5 hours
Yeah.
in a very hectic environment. And like, I don't blame couples at all because I feel like we live in an era of filters where we can all take the same photograph and just apply certain editing softwares and filters to it. And so sometimes I think that mentality shifts to hand painted visual art, and it's just going to leave everyone just sad and disappointed and frustrating. So that's a big misconception. um maybe not any longer again because my portfolio is really extensive and my style is kind of concrete now. But maybe at the beginning of in the middle of my career, that was interesting to navigate more. But also, one thing I talk a lot about is, and this I think applies to any vendor and is certainly any couple um, listening, is couples truly sometimes don't know what they don't know. And by them going to the internet, let's say in the live painting example, finding a live painting by another artist that they like and bringing it to you, sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean they're expecting you to replicate it. They just don't know how to articulate what they like about
Mm,
it, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
total. Yeah,
And
total.
yeah, and I've learned that the hard way over many years of it. It's on us vendors to just ask better questions.
Mm,
Um,
Yeah.
and to not, and I know a lot of live artists, sometimes they get very offended very easily when couples are sourcing inspo and it's paintings by others. When I most of the time, I don't think they're asking you to replicate this style. There's something about the painting that they really love and they're resonating with. Ask the questions, get to the meat of it, so that then you can provide that to them, but of course in your own style, in your own way.
I love that.
Yeah. And I'm sure that was that harder for you at first to kind of draw those conclusions from an inspo picture? Like, is it the colors? Is it the, you know, I'm not a painter, so I'm not sure, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was, but I think I've always had it a little bit easier in that regard because I come from an arts management background. That was my career before becoming an artist myself. Um, I worked for the DC government as a legislative and community affairs assistant for the arts branch. I interned for both the National Endowments for the Arts and Humanities in White House and congressional affairs roles. And then
Oh, wow.
even finally this past May, I finally graduated with my master's in arts management. Thank you. So I feel like when I started my business as a painter, I came with all of that like philosophical book nerd stuff in the back of
mhm.
my brain, um, where we take entire classes in school about how to dissect all different types of art. So I think I had a little bit easier that I was able to apply that even though I was the painter now and I wasn't the painter's advocate. So yeah, that's always the arts manager is always never went away when I'm interacting with couples.
I love it. All right. Do you have any tips for couples who want to surprise their guests with a live painting experience?
Yes. Okay. So first and foremost, um, check with the venue.
Oh,
Like
Oh.
if you're able to be sneaky about it, just make sure that everything on the venue's end is fine. I have been in situations where I was hired as a surprise. It caught the venue very off guard, and then it created a little bit of a headache on my end and
oh.
whatnot because ironically, mostly at museums.
I was
Mostly
gonna
at art
say,
museums.
yeah, because they don't want you to reflect the art in your art.
Or just they're so worried about
Oh.
spills too.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, I didn't
like
even think. Yeah. Okay.
like
Yep.
historic properties and stuff.
Yeah, and in
So,
DC, there's so many museums. There,
yes.
I feel like it's a museum capital of the world there.
Oh, I was just talking with my planner friend about that last night, about how I was kind of looking at my career and how I don't work in like downtown DC a lot because there's so many historical properties that are so hesitant about artists, or if they allow an artist, I have to be outside, which isn't always great with temperature and
No.
weather and stuff. So my biggest thing is, please, before giving anyone your money, contact the venue. The venue is usually super great about acknowledging surprises and not letting that slip. Make sure your artist has a certificate of insurance for whatever that amount is. And then also, if you do have trusted people within that circle surrounding the couple or whoever you want to surprise, check with them that someone else isn't doing the same thing. It has not happened to me yet,
Oh,
but
could you imagine?
I do have artist friends who they've showed up to a wedding and there's another artist, which I kind of think
Oh,
is cool because
I
it's
do
like,
too. Now that you think about it, but I'm like,
yeah,
whoa.
yeah. But like, again, creatives can get very passionate very fast about their craft. So it has not happened to me, but if you are in a position to kind of like on the down low, feel out this idea, just, make sure you're not replicating the idea.
Well, and I didn't even think about the spills when it comes to these museums and stuff.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
because when we were in Fort Lauderdale together, I went to a class and the girl worked at the Spy Museum there
Yes.
in DC. And I was like, who the hell even knew there was a spy? Like, how
Oh, it's
cool
so
is
good.
that? Yeah. And then she was talking about how all the rules and you have, like to have an event there, get married there. There's, and so I would imagine you really, really have to check with the venue to make sure everything's
Oh, like,
copacetic to be. Yeah.
yeah, like my planner friend and I were just talking about another historic DC venue. They won't allow cocktail sauce with shrimp, or they won't serve
Oh.
Aperol because of
No.
the dye and the color, let alone. And like, I'm lucky I work in acrylics, which are water based. So if things spill, I'm actually very good, knock on wood. They will come out with
Yeah.
soap and water. But for like, oil painters, that's a whole other
Yeah.
ball game. It's a whole thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big obstacle I would not even have thought of. So that's crazy.
Yep.
All right. So I think we just have a couple more questions for you.
Sweet.
But what advice would you give couples who are trying to decide between a live painter and other keepsake options? Like what sets you apart?
Oh, I mean, I think what immediately sets us apart is the entertainment aspect. You're kind of
Mhm.
getting,
Mm.
two for the price of one,
Yes.
especially. I would say, like right off the bat, that's really that's key.
Well, even like what did you call them before? The individual, like smaller portraits for the
Yeah.
guests to take home. Like, what a cool experience is that? And I mean, I'm sure do you start during the cocktail hour and just kind of work your way through the event?
Yeah, it depends. So I now have two options depending on guest count and logistics. Ooh. And so one option is well, let me back up and say I personally offer a full evening experience, and that's
Hmm.
probably a new educational component that a lot of us, like fellow live illustrators, are going to start having to tackle is sometimes couples think we're a photo booth in terms of the
Oh.
instantaneousness of the favor. And so I get a lot of inquiries where they're just interested in hiring an artist, maybe just for cocktail hour. And I'm like, when you think about how a cocktail hour works, by the time guests mosey on in, discover me, set up somewhere, we go through the whole thing, and then the time it takes me to paint, I'm gonna barely be able to serve someone in 1 hour. So
Yeah.
I've moved to offering a full day service where I'm ready to go after the ceremony and I'll be there all evening. And so option one is I create a sign up sheet with the number of illustrations I know I'll be able to complete by the end of the night. Guests, fill it in. And then once it's all filled in, like that's it. I have to cut myself off and the service, ends at the end of the night. But then for larger guest counts, I offer the option to basically have a few more hours in studio to complete them. So I either bring an assistant who takes photos of the guests and that develops my
Oh,
queue and I just go
Yeah.
down the line. If I'm not able to have an assistant, I have an automated texting system which invites guests to text me a full body image of themselves and then that develops a queue, and any illustrations that I'm not able to finish I complete them at home, get them back to the couple, and they're great since you have to send out thank you notes anyway. They're great
Yeah.
to just add
oh,
into the thank
yeah.
you notes. So that's just now how I've learned to operate. But I feel like these guest illustrations are sort of the new frontier in terms of education. And if the filter mindset to style was for live painting, I think the instantaneous photo booth mindset is the new thing we have to tackle for
I got it.
the live illustrations.
Yeah, because
I
that's
think in
what.
general, people's attention spans are getting shorter.
Yes.
So yeah, more unique ways to manage that.
Yeah,
Love it.
absolutely.
All right. So as we wrap up, I want to ask you, how can couples incorporate their pets, which is something you're very passionate
Yes.
about, or other meaningful details into their wedding painting, even if those elements aren't like physically at the event? So how does that work?
Absolutely. So pets, I feel like, oh, that's so easy for me to go off on. I mean, I feel like for a few years now, naming like the signature cocktails after their pets has been super
Yeah.
popular. And so that's where you can come to someone like me to like hand paint or hand illustrate
Oh,
the pet.
yeah.
And then you got the file. So however you need to print it on napkins, on signage, whatever. And then of course you get the original, I always send the original painting or illustration back to them to keep. Um, like they incorporating them into their stationery. I do a lot of watercolor wedding crests where pets are super popular to incorporate along with other motifs that are super popular. But I would say the vast majority of my couples request that I add in their pet into the painting, even though a lot of venues don't allow the pets to physically be there. But
Yeah.
they're part of the family. They're part of this little unit you're creating and saying, I do too. And they
It's usually
deserve
well, I'm gonna say
what
it's usually the first thing they do before they decide to have children. Can we keep this, dog, cat, whatever the animal that they can we keep it alive as a couple? Can we, and then they move on.
100%.
Yeah.
And I've had some fun over the years with like, of course, dogs tend to be number one, but I've had couples who've had, parrots. Can we incorporate those into the painting? Llamas. There's been llamas involved. Horses,
Oh, geez.
definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
horses are a big thing.
oh yeah, like it's so fun, and they're family. And pets are super important to me. I donate a portion of the proceeds from every painting I do, not just live, to local and national animal rescues, especially the one where we rescued our two dogs from.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, if you have a heart for your pet, like I'm your girl, I get you. And then what was the second question, Kevin? I'm
Or just
sorry.
even like other like family members or or any other element they may not physically be at the event.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's quite. I wouldn't say it's popular as pets, but over the years, I've had many a couple ask me to add in a parent or a grandparent who's passed on because you're not going to get a physical photograph of them there at the wedding. But again, like I was saying earlier, the painting is an opportunity to kind of create a new reality. So that's been really lovely. So couples usually just send me their favorite images of their loved one, and we just have a conversation about what they probably would have worn that
Mm,
day if they were with us. So that's really meaningful. But yeah, kind of like what I was saying earlier, I really thrive on the creativity. So if I mean even just an example like if I am hired to paint an outdoor ceremony in the middle of January, February, where it's not at all lush, we can make that space look lush. You know, if the trees, the leaves
Yeah.
are gone, if many a time the sunset isn't as impressive as on other days, but we can make the sunset really impressive. Um, so there's really not a lot we can't do. Oh, or another one is if a couple is getting married in like a church or a synagogue, and that's what they want the painting to reflect. I make that work, even though I permanently set myself up over at the reception space.
Yeah.
If I'm able to attend, I like to attend, or I'll work with your photographer who have always been awesome about texting
Getting
me
you
or
an
emailing
image.
me
Yeah.
images. Yeah. So I'm very much a whatever the logistics, whatever you want the painting to reflect, like I'll bring it to life. Like that makes me really giddy.
Before that was our final question, but I have a
Yeah.
little follow up because all of a sudden guests or couples are incorporating cars. Have you ever had to put a car into a painting out of curiosity? Because
Yes, I
cars are
have.
becoming a thing here all of a sudden.
They're not. Well,
Yeah.
I feel like we've always had the like getaway car.
Yeah.
So yeah, the in the past I have a handful where if they had like a nice Rolls or something like that, I incorporated it into the painting. But I
Yeah.
have to say, my couples in particular, that hasn't been the focal point of the painting, but they've definitely had a cool car.
Yeah, it's just all of a sudden like they're incorporating some family car or something that means something to them,
Oh,
and it's just
that's
it's
awesome.
something. Yeah, it's like a newer thing that I'm starting to see more and more. So anyway.
I've painted a few times, now that you say this, a remote control car with either a dog
Oh,
or a baby in it.
oh, that's cute.
Oh, like what they do for
And
the introductions, like the grand
yeah,
Yes.
entrance. They're writing in them. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yep. That's made
That's
it into the
so
painting a
funny.
few times.
love it. All right. So as we wrap up, Brittany, I just want to ask you, like, what is your favorite part of a wedding?
This isn't a moment so much as the opportunity I usually have. So I would say probably me, someone like the DJ, we're one of the very few vendors who get to hang out in the reception space before the madness.
Uh-huh.
And I always love listening to like the gossip from the catering staff, or sometimes if it's the, you know what I mean? Or like if it's the band or there's a DJ team. Am I am I allowed to
No,
say a curse or something?
you can curse all you
Okay.
want.
Oh, yeah.
I love to hear fellow industry professionals like shooting the shit
Yeah.
before the like everyone has to be on and people come in. The sound, the sound of the staff filling water goblets. You know, there's a very
Yeah.
particular sound.
Yep. Yep.
So I love that solid like half hour where we've got a half hour left of cocktail hour. Everyone who is, you know, in this space is just like chicken with their head cut off sometimes. They're telling stories about like, oh, this guy is such an asshole. Oh, I did this amazing. Like, I just love, you know, people forget I'm there or they think I'm
Yeah.
so focused. So I just like, I love hearing that. It makes me, you know, it makes me smile.
Well, it's funny you
No.
say that because I work a lot at venues up in a scissor lift and when we're setting up the lighting and chandeliers and stuff. So you're above everyone on
Yeah.
this platform and they don't even think you're there, but you hear all the conversations and it's like sometimes I get all the gossip that way because
All
it's
the
like they
gossip.
don't even know I'm there. And so or
All the good
I
stuff.
mean they forget I'm there because I'm all the way, I'm
Yeah.
15, 20 feet in the air. So it makes me laugh.
And
So
just for couples, it's actually, no one's actually talking about you, the couple.
you,
It's
Oh,
actually
no.
just like
no.
us, you know, like, just to make everyone feel better. It's not gossip about the families or anything. It's just like
No.
within the industry. And it
It's
just makes me
usually
laugh.
yeah, and it's about one vendor that did something stupid and
Yeah,
then
no.
Precisely.
You might be seeing someone you haven't seen in a while and you're catching up and
yeah.
yeah, like you said, shooting the shit, like in
Yeah.
a fun way. But yeah, again, if you like you're around vendors you don't know very much and they think you're in the zone, it's so fun to just pick up
Oh
on
my
that.
God.
It's great.
They don't even know.
All right, Brittany, we'll have this in the show notes for everyone, but how can folks get in contact with you to hire you to bring. I know you've been to California, so we can't check you off the list here in California, but maybe
I'll
we have
come again.
listeners. I know you'll come again, but
I
maybe
love
you'll
California.
and we have listeners from outside the state, so maybe hopefully it's a state that you've never been to. So
I have not been to Oregon.
okay, there you
I don't know
go.
if that's close enough.
It's to the north of us.
I feel like everything is by Brittany Branson, so bybrittnybranson.com. Instagram, I'm the most active on, by Brittany Branson. I do have a TikTok that I peep in every once in a while. That I think is live_painter_Brittany, but mostly Instagram and website. Come say hi.
Yep. Send DMs, hire her, bring her to a state she's never been.
Thank you.
We gotta help get some of these states knocked off your list for you. So Brittany, I can't thank you enough. I mean, you were such a wealth of knowledge, and I feel like after listening to this, folks are gonna want to hire you and bring you out, or even another live painter, because you can't be at every wedding. But
Just support us, yeah. Thank you.
Support them as a group and get them out. So. Thank you so much for being here. And folks, thank you for listening to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married podcast.
Brought to you by Fantasy Sound Event Services.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Please get in touch with me or August if you have any topic you would like us to cover.
Or if you're struggling with your wedding planning, please be sure to submit a question to podcast@fantasysound.com.
I encourage you to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're a fan, we'd love if you would subscribe to the podcast and leave a review.
It helps others find our podcast so that they can learn from our guests too. And to everybody listening,
Happy wedding planning!